Ah, okay.
And then minus 3 squared, which that, if you square, it would be 49k to the 4th minus 9.
I love it. Okay. If you FOILed, you would find out that the negative 21k squared and the positive 21k squared will do what? Cancel out, become 0. So you'll just get 49k to the 4th minus 9. Daniel, what's up?
I tried everything. It won't even let me turn my Wi-Fi off. Like, it's not connecting.
Okay. I don't know. Maybe just take regular notes.
All right.
Okay. So 7.4, solving polynomial equations in factored form. So, guys, we've done a lot of foiling, distributing, all that stuff, right? Now we are doing the opposite. We're doing something called factoring. Okay, so the first thing, I love how this lesson is set up, okay, because it breaks it down. It starts really, really easy, and then it sets you up to be really successful at the end, okay? So make sure you're following along the whole way, even though the beginning's super, super simple, okay? It starts off with something called the zero product property, okay? What that property says, and go ahead and write this down on the left side of your page, okay? It says if two things are being multiplied by each other, okay, and they equal 0, either one of them has to be equal to 0 or both of them have to be equal to 0, right? Because in order to reach 0 from a product, it has to be like 0 times 5. That would equal 0, right? Or 0 times 7, right? But could you have 0 if one of them was not equal to 0? Like 7 times 6. No, that's never going to be equal to 0. 7 times negative 6. That's never going to be equal to 0. So one of your numbers has to be equal to 0 or both of them have to be equal to 0. Okay? So the same thing works when we have variables there. Okay? So take a look at this expression. X times x plus 2. If this were to be set equal to 0, right? You could set the x term equal to 0. Or you could set the x plus 2 term equal to 0, okay? And when we do that, we get what's called a root, okay? Now, I know that's a lot, but it makes a lot of sense once we do an example, okay? So, scroll down to A, where we have 2x times x minus 4 equals 0, okay? So, using the zero product property, because there's a 0 on this side, we can use the zero product property. Because of that 0. We can say this is 2x and this is x plus 4, right? Two things being multiplied by each other equals 0. So then we set each of them equal to 0. So our first equation is going to be 2x equals 0. Just the first term equal to 0. And what do you think the second thing is going to be? X minus 4 equals 0. So in this case, right, we're going to get two answers. We're going to get two solutions or two roots of the equation, okay? How would we solve 2x equals 0? What would we do here? Isa? Divide by 2. Not 2x, just 2, okay? So when we divide by 2, what's 0 divided by 2, Isa?
0.
So x equals 0. That's one of our answers. Circle it. And then for the second one, we have x minus 4 equals 0. Shayla, what would you do there?
Add 4 to 4 and C.
Good.
Get x equals 4.
So x equals 4. So our two solutions are x equals 0 and x equals 4. Now let's talk about why we got two solutions. Do you agree that 2x times x minus 4 equals 0? Only one of these needs to be equal to 0. And the other one could be whatever he wanted or she wanted. So x needs to be equal to 0 or x needs to be equal to 4 because one of these needs to be equal to 0. They could both be equal to 0, right? So x could be equal to 0 and they could both be equal to 0. But in this case, that won't happen because there's no x value that would allow both of these to be equal to 0, okay? So x equals 0 and x equals 4, okay? The only way we can apply this, though, is if it's equals 0 on one side of the equation. You guys Gucci? All right, let's try another one. X minus 3 times x minus 9 equals 0. So, x minus 3 is one term. What's the other one? X minus 9. So we have the product of two polynomials equals 0. Therefore, set them each equal to 0. So we're going to get x minus 3 equals 0. And what's the other one? X minus 9 equals 0. So, how do we solve x minus 3 equals 0? Cody? Add 3 to both sides. X equals 3. How do we solve x minus 9 equals 0? Cody?
Plus 9.
Yeah, you add 9. So x equals 9. Gucci? All right, let's do 2 more, and then I'm going to set you free, okay? All right. C. What do we do? Veronica? X equals 0. And? X minus 1 equals 0. Now, Veronica, why are we able to set these equal to 0? Because it equals 0, okay? If we didn't have this here, guys, you cannot apply the zero product property unless what you're multiplying together equals 0. Does that make sense? So if there's no 0 over there on the right side, you cannot apply it here. But since it's 0, we can, okay? All right, so x equals 0, that's just one answer because we can't solve that, right? We already know x equals 0. And Bryson, go ahead and solve the second one.
It'll be x minus 1 equals 0, so you add 1 to both sides. So it'll be x equals 1.
X equals 1. These aren't so bad, are they? Okay. One more, and then I'll let you loose, okay? D. 3t times t plus 2 equals 0. Cassie, what would you do? How would you start it? Good. T plus 2 equals 0. What's the other factor, though? What's the other factor? Chloe? 3t equals 0. Okay? Each of these are separate. Do you guys see that? All right. So now we've got 3t equals 0. You divide by 3, you're going to get t equals 0, just like Cassie said. And then she said subtract 2 from both sides, and we get t equals -2. Good, bad, ugly? All right, do E and F, go. Okay, you guys jump back up a little bit, okay? I want you to think about this question. If the product of two factors is 0, will there always be 2 roots? Write down your answer and explain it, go. How many people put yes, that there will always be 2 roots? How many people put no? The answer is no. Now, let me show you why it's no, okay? And I want to show you by writing an example. So write this example down, okay? I want you to write down the example x minus 1 times x minus 1 equals 0. Do you agree that we can use the zero product property here? Why? Because it equals 0, okay? So we're going to first set x minus 1 equal to 0. And that means x equals what? 1. Then we're going to set x minus 1 equals 0. And we're going to get x equals 1. How many roots do I have? I only have 1 root. But how many times does it happen? Twice. So this is what we call a repeated root. Okay? So there's technically only 1 root. Okay? But it's the same root. Okay? But it happens twice. Repeated roots. Okay? So if a root ever repeats, there's only 1 of them, right? Because x can only be equal to 1. Can't be equal to anything else. But it happened twice. Do you guys see that? Okay. All right, the answers are up on the board. Check yourself. If you're not done, keep working through it. Then check yourself, and then talk amongst your groups to figure out if everyone got the same answer. If someone got it wrong, help them out. Go. When 2 or more roots of an equation are the same number, the equation has a repeated root. Okay, we just talked about that. Let's take a look at some examples where we may or may not get repeated roots. How would we do A? Zach, what would you do?
2x plus 7 equals 0. We do the same both minus.
Good. And then the other one's just 2x minus 7 equals 0. Rocco, help me solve this first one. 2x plus 7 equals 0. Yep, so x equals negative 7 over 2. And Bruno, walk me through the second one.
So 2x minus 7 equals 0. And then you times the 7 on both sides. 2x equals 7. Then you divide the 2. So 7 over 2.
Yep, x equals 7 over 2. Beautiful. You guys, question for you. Do we have repeated roots here? No. Why not? Gabby? One is negative and one is positive. So we have two distinct different roots. Gucci? All right. So this is not repeated roots. Check out B. Oh, boy. What is this? Now, do you guys remember when we were foiling and I told you to do what when something was squared?
Multiply. Like, okay, so you put like 1 outside the parentheses, and then multiply like x minus 1, and the next one, oh wait, never mind.
Do you remember when we did that? So, when we do that, what happens? Then you just do the same thing. X minus 1 equals 0. And the other one's x minus 1 equals 0. Are we going to get a repeated root here? Yes. Do you guys see the difference? Okay. So our repeated root should be x equals 1, right? How many roots does this have? 1. It has one root. What is the root? X equals 1. It is repeated. Yes, you are correct. Do we all see that? How many roots did this one have? What were the roots? Negative 7 over 2 and 7 over 2. Any questions? Ronnie, what's up?
So if they're repeated, there's only one?
If they're repeated, there's only one. Well, you may, like, for example, in C. Guys, how many roots am I going to get in C? 3, right? Unless one of them is repeated. Then I would get 2. If all of them are repeated, then I would just have one root. Does that make sense? Okay. So, take the first one, x plus 1, set it equal to 0. So x equals? Negative 1. Second one, x minus 3 equals 0. X equals? 3. And the last one, x minus 2 equals 0. X equals? So I have 3 roots here. Gucci? All right. Moving on. 3x plus 5 times 5x plus 8 equals 0. What do I do? Daniel.
First you do 3x plus 5 equals 0. Then subtract 5 both sides. And you get 3x equals negative 5. Divide by 3 both sides. And then you'll get x equals negative 5 over 3. And then that's
Beautiful. Mm-hmm.
And on the second one, you do the same thing by 5x plus 8 equals 0. And then subtract 8 both sides. And you get 5x equals negative 8.
Yep.
Divide by 5 both sides. And then x equals negative 8 over 5.
Beautiful. So there are 2 roots. Are they repeated? No, because they're different. What do I do? Not yet. What do I do? Brandon.
Set up b plus 7 and after set up parentheses.
Good. So write it twice. What do I do from here?
Subtract 7 from both sides.
Well, first set them equal to 0, but you're right. B plus 7 equals 0. We only need to write it once because it's kind of clear we're going to get a repeated root, right? Okay? So B plus 7 equals 0. And then you subtract 7 from both sides like you said. So B equals? Negative 7. How many roots does this have?
1.
1. Is it a repeated root?
Yeah.
Yes, because it happens twice. Do you guys see that? Okay. Yeah.
Is it just going to be like ones that are squared, or are we going to to the third power, fourth power, is it gonna be the same thing if it's a repeated root, like, because it's the same thing multiple times?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. F. What do we do? Alexandra, go for it.
B minus 2 equals 0, B plus 6 equals 0, and B plus 8 equals 0.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just add plus 2 and plus 2 to the 0. It's going to give you B equals 2. And then the same thing with the, it's going to go negative 6.
Yep.
And then minus 8 minus 6 equals negative 8.
You guys, this should be the easy part. Are we all Gucci on this so far? Okay. The next part is what we do. We're going to be doing factoring. And that's the more challenging of the two, okay? How many people have heard of factoring before? How many people have heard of greatest common factor before?
No.
GCF. Yup, that's what we're doing. Okay, so we're going to do a little GCF refresher. So on the left side, next to where it says factoring polynomials using GCF, I want you to write GCF refresher. Okay? All right, we're going to start with an easy one. 4x squared minus 16x. Okay? 4x squared minus 16x. When we're doing greatest common factor, okay, start with the numbers first, okay? So underline the 4, underline the 16. When we talk about the greatest common factor, think about all the factors of both of the numbers. So think about all the factors of 4. 4 has factors of what? 4, not 8, not 12. 4, 2, what else? 1. That's it. Okay? Factors are numbers that multiply together to give you that number, right? So 2 times 2 gives me 4, and 4 times 1 gives me 4, right? So my factors are 4, 2, and 1. Agreed? Then 16, what are the common factors, or what are all of the factors of 16? 4, 2, 8, 1. There's one more. 16. Because 1 times 16 gives me 16, 2 times 8 gives me 16, and 4 times 4 gives me 16. You guys see that? Now, between the two of them, what is the greatest factor that they have in common? 4. Okay? So circle the 4. So you're going to pull out the 4 from each of these. So you're going to say, all right, 4 is going to get pulled out from each of the terms. But you're also going to be able to pull out part of the variable, okay? So we have x and x squared. Pull out the smaller one, so x. So you're going to pull out a 4x. This is what we call factoring out. So you're factoring out 4x, so this first term becomes an x, and this second term becomes a 4, a minus 4. Now, let me walk you through how I got that, okay? So once we figured out that this was 4, right? And we pulled out an x because x was the smaller of the two variables. We pull out a 4x. What is 4x squared divided by 4x? It's just x. And what is 16x, or negative 16x, divided by 4x? Negative 4. So it becomes x minus 4 inside. Now, if you distribute and if you factored correctly, you should end up right back where you started. What is 4x times x? 4x squared. Are we good there? Yes. What is 4x times negative 4? Negative 16x. Are we good? Okay, let's do another one. Let's do another one. Okay, so let's do one that looks like this. Let's say we have 25y to the 4th plus 5y squared. All right. What is the greatest common factor between 5 and 25? 5. So pull out a 5. And what is the greatest common factor between y to the fourth and y squared? Y squared. Okay? In other words, pick the smaller of the two in terms of their exponents, right? So now pull out a 5 squared. Does anyone know what the first term is going to be after you divide by 5y squared?
Y.
5y squared.
Wait, but doesn't the y divide and get cancel out?
They don't cancel out. Because y to the fourth divided by y squared is going to give me y squared.
Oh,
Okay? Then the second term is going to be
Y.
1. Because what's 5y squared divided by 5y squared? 1. Okay? If you are still confused after this refresher, okay, you need to practice. Lots of practice, okay? All right, so let's do the first one. A, 4x to the fourth plus 24x to the third. Greatest common factor. We need to factor it out. Bryson.
4.
It's not just 4, though.
Oh, 4x to the fourth power.
X, not to the
Oh,
fourth,
second.
to the third.
Oh,
So check it out. Factor out a 4x to the third. You're going to get x on the inside. And what else? Plus 6. In this one, we've got 8y squared minus 24y. Cody, what do you think?
We first do, we put a because it's the greatest common factor,
Good.
and then we put y to the, just y. That's
Yep.
the lowest number, and then in parentheses you put y minus 3.
Good. Look at it.
Oh. I kind of get it now.
Gives me a headache. Why didn't you say that from the start? Can we have like 2 questions of these on the quiz?
Yes.
I don't like greatest common. I never got it the first time and I'm barely getting it.
Okay, so just pick the smaller one, right? This is y to the first power. This is y to the second. So factor out just a single y.
Yeah, but then it's for 8. Like, how that's what I'm saying.
Why did I pick x to the third? Because it was x to the third or x to the fourth.
No, that's not the question is like, x to the fourth divided by 4x to the third.
Yeah.
Like, how did you divide that?
So 4x to the fourth divided by 4x to the third, right? When we divide with the same base, what do we do with the exponents? Subtract them. What's 4 minus 3? So then it becomes 1 times x to the first, which is just x. Okay? Yeah, Veronica?
Just to simplify, when you get that last number in the parentheses equation,
Yeah,
you're just dividing like negative 24 by 8.
correct. All right, let's do another one. A harder one. All right, let's check it out. So we've got 8 and 4. Remember, start with the numbers, start simple. What's the greatest common factor between 8 and 4? Quattro. Okay, so pull out a 4. What's the greatest common factor, move on, between x squared and x? No, x. Okay? What's the greatest common factor between y cubed and y squared? Y squared. So now, when we divide, check it out. What are we going to have left over? The first term is going to be 2x y. The second term is going to be minus 1. Okay.
And the other ones, the first term was like
So, check out D. Check out D, okay? What is the greatest common factor between 3, 12, and 6? Tres, okay? So we're going to factor out a 3. Now, all of the terms, let's try to factor out the x, okay? So we have 3, 12, and 6. That factored out to a 3, right? All of the terms do not have an x. Do you guys see that? So you can't factor out an x. Do all of the terms have a y? No. Where's the y in the first term? So the only thing you can factor out is that 3. So factor out the 3, and you're going to get x squared plus 4xy minus 2y squared. If it's hard, that's good, okay? You need to stare at this. You need to let it sink in. You need to really try here. Guys, this is not easy. All right, let's do some more, okay? Go back, okay? Where we're going to use both the things that we learned. We're going to use the zero product property and we're going to factor, okay? So, guys, it's not that hard, okay? Take a look at the first one. 2x squared plus 8x. Can anyone factor the greatest common factor out for me? It's 2x. Very good, okay? So factor out a 2x. And what do you have inside the parentheses then? Just x plus 4. This is equal to 0. Can we use the zero product property here? Yes, why? Because it's a 0, so 2x equals 0, and x plus 4 equals 0. So now x equals? You divide by 2, you get x equals 0. And the second one, x equals? Negative 4. Adam? Okay, let's do another one. Now, this one looks different. Why is this one different, peeps? Brandon? There's numbers on both sides. There's no 0, right? So let's make a 0. Subtract 15n from both sides. You could have subtracted 6n squared. Either way will be fine. So now 6n squared minus 15n equals, what's 15n minus 15n? 0. Now do we have a 0? Good, so now just factor and use the zero product property, okay? So we're going to factor 6n squared minus 15n. Yes, you can. It's 3n. And when you factor out 3n, what goes inside my parentheses, Ronnie? Nope. Zach? Cody? 2n minus 5. You set both of these equal to 0. 3n equals 0. And 2n minus 5 equals 0. Divide by 3, n equals 0. Add 5, 2n equals 5. Divide by 2, n equals 5 over 2. Okay, we're going to do 2 more together, and then I'm going to let you guys try 2 on your own, okay? All right, take a look at C. This one's actually very easy, so. Okay, what can we factor? A 1, but not just a 1, and an A. So what's 1 times A? Just A, so we're factoring out an A. And inside my parentheses is now a plus 5. You set both of these equal to 0. So you get a equals 0 and a plus 5 equals 0. So a equals 0 is one root. What's the other root? A equals negative 5. D. All right, we're going to do this one together, and then I'll let you guys go on your own. What do? 3 is my greatest common factor, but it's not just 3, people. It's 3x. Do we see that? So pull out a 3x. What do you have left over? X minus 3 equals 0. Are we starting to see it or no? Not at all.
Yes.
A little bit? Even if it's like the slightest little amount that you're starting to see it, I'm happy, okay? All right, so we set these both equal to 0. We get 3x equals 0. And we get x minus 3 equals 0. So x equals 0 and 3. X equals 0 and x equals 3. All right, try the last two on your own. Go. Good. So you should have subtracted 2x from both sides. Rewrite it. Don't try to do everything in one step, people. Okay? Then our new equation should have been 4x squared minus 2x equals 0. Most people were Gucci up to here. Are we Gucci? Any questions? All right. When you're factoring, almost everyone pulled out a 2x, which is correct. But the common mistake was to put x minus 2 here. It is not x minus 2. What is 4x squared divided by 2x? 2x. And what is 2x divided by, negative 2x divided by 2x? Minus 1. This is how you should have factored. Then from here, you set both of these equal to 0. You should have gotten 2x equals 0 and 2x minus 1 equals 0. Divide both sides by 2, you get x equals 0 here. And you add 1, you get 2x equals 1. Divide by 2, x equals 1 over 2 over here. Isa, what's up?
So when this is minus the 2x, you don't actually subtract it, you write it out as a subtraction.
Correct. You can't subtract those because they're not like terms. Okay? All right, questions on this first one? Yeah, Ronnie?
For the exponents, you just subtract them.
Yes. For the second one, okay, you could have subtracted 6x or 18x squared from both sides. Either way, you're going to get the same answer. I would have subtracted 6x from this side. We're going to get 0 equals 18x squared minus 6x. What did we factor? Brandon? 6x. Very good. So we're going to get 0 equals 6x times 3x minus 1. You set each of those equal to 0. You get 6x equals 0. And you get 3x minus 1 equals 0. X equals 0. X equals 1 over 3.